do that.
Before we get into the specifics of the skills, we have to realize that there are actually two very important ways that people differ in their vision. Visual researchers say that if people are different as their fingerprints, visual ability and visual experience is the way that people differ the most. Wrap your brain around that for a second. Now that informs us to say, well, okay, Lisa doesn't see like Bill. Bill doesn't see like listener. So you watching out there, you see differently than me. So now what we need to do is discover how we best see. So, once we get done with this talk, you're going to have some tools to work with. All right. So the first thing is that about half of tennis players that I've seen are pure dextral and the other half are cross dextral. And I don't think we teach pure dextral people very well. But now, what is that?
Okay, wait, yeah. I was going to say,
I'm going to explain terms now. All right. Good. Cross dextral is when you're left eye dominant. The screen's backwards, by the way, I'm flipped. Yeah. So left eye dominant and right-handed. Or right eye dominant and left-handed. Okay. That's cross dextral.
And how do you determine which eye is dominant, though?
Let me finish my thing, and then we'll go to eye dominant.
Okay.
All right. So then there's pure dextral, which is right eye dominant and right-handed, left eye dominant, left-handed, right? And they seem to have, my experience, my own little workshop, my own laboratory with no real scientific data seems to say that there's some specific skills to each one. Eye dominance can easily be tested this way. Take your hands. Wait, let me get back far from here. Just take your hands and make a very small hole between your hands out in front of you.
Okay.
And then sight an object with both eyes open. No cheating. Right. With both eyes open, sight something in the distance. A tennis ball's perfect. Right. And then close one eye. And if you still see the ball, then the eye that you're looking through is your dominant eye. Now, just to check that, open your eyes again and close the other eye. And if you don't see it, then that's your non-dominant eye.
Okay. What if you can't wink on both sides?
What's that?
What if you can't just close one eye on both sides? Like I could.
No, there are people. No, that's a good question. No, man, this is all the important stuff. Yeah, I mean, you might have to cover your eyes. Some people are not capable of blinking one eye. Yeah, that's a fascinating thing. So you might have to cover your eye or have someone cover your eye. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Both of your hands are occupied right there.
Okay.
So then you can test your eye dominance, and 80% of your seeing comes through your dominant eye.
Okay.
The non-dominant eye fills in depth perception and some details like colors and other stuff. So you do most of your seeing through your dominant eye. All right, now why that's important will come at the end of this section when we get into focusing. So now the first skill is scanning, and scanning can be understood this way. If we go back to hunter-gatherers. So you come out into a clearing, and across the way in the forest, you hear a sound, right? Right, and so then you scan the entire area because you want to see if there's some kind of dangerous animal coming your way.
Okay.
Right? So scanning is when you take a full field view.
Okay.
And this is something people don't do often. When the ball's getting to your opponent, you take a full field view of the other side. And what that'll help you do is also detect cues in your opponent. I had a coach who was like, Bill, you don't move forward enough when the other guy's moving back, right? Like, what are you talking about? I'm trying the hardest I can, right? He's like, no. You really have to detect cues in your opponent better. So when I learned to watch my opponent, you can't focus on your opponent. They're too large.
So we do that in the scan.
So you do full field, and then I started to be able to see, as soon as I see my opponent's back, I'm coming in. Scanning for the ball coming out of the racket. So you're looking at this whole field, and you'll see the ball coming out of the racket, and your brain gathers a tremendous amount of information that would take 10,000 words to analyze based on the cue of the body language of the player, their balance, what was the shape of their swing? How cleanly did it come out of the racket? There's so much that your brain can figure out about what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also want to attend to the ball coming out of the racket.
Okay.
You know, I don't have the foggiest as to when the transitions between these things happen, and I gotta believe that it's different for everybody. So
Well,
the
for
other,
a lot of people, though, this is it just happens. It's instinctual, right? You look across and you see the full field, and then once that ball starts coming toward you, your focus goes toward the object that's coming at you. But you're saying there's a way to work on that and improve it and improve the transition time so that we're analyzing better.
well, okay,
reacting better.
no, I think the difference is the intentionality. I intend to scan. I think people accidentally learn that because they weren't taught it, and
Okay.
we're losing a lot of people because we don't teach scanning, and people learn it accidentally. They learn it because they have to. They learned it on their own. Their coach didn't teach them.
Okay.
And so I'm going to say that the default is that pretty close to 0% of my new students know how to scan. When I get someone who's a fairly accomplished player, I would say 10% of them understand scanning the way I'd like them to.
Okay.
And it can be a revelation to their game. So people might not realize that they're not actually paying attention to the ball coming out of the racket.
Mm.
I played pretty well. I was a 4-5 for a while, but then 3 full years of 5-0 until I hurt myself. But if I was having a trouble volleying on any particular day with some balls coming pretty quick, my first cure was, am I seeing the ball coming out of their strings? It's really amazing what can happen. All right, now Vic Braden proved that once the ball comes out of the racket by 2 feet, your brain passively has analyzed with 95% accuracy where it's going to land. But that's facilitated by that scanning. If you're not paying attention to that contact point, you're not getting the 95%. You're getting a much lower percentage of that. So now what are the factors that make up for the 5%? It could be the quality of the tennis ball. It could be the heat of the court. It could be the heaviness of the conditions, wind, blah, blah, blah. That accounts for the 95% that you can't accurately predict necessarily, especially the wind, right? So anyway, now at some point before or after that ball has traveled 2 feet, tracking begins. Tracking is not focusing. Focusing is something that happens. Now take your thumb and put it out full length from your face, and focusing occurs within that 3-degree band of your vision.
Okay. So it's a non-mobile. You're focusing on something
it can be moving. You can focus on a moving object,
but
you have to keep it within the three degrees of that. Everything outside of that is your peripheral vision.
Got it.
Which is probably news for a lot of people. All right, now, so the way I teach tracking is this. I will hold a ball up stationary, and I'll have people look at the ball. Then I'll move the ball, but they have to continue looking there. And then I'll throw a ball across their vision, and that's tracking.
Okay. Keeping the focus on that one spot, even though there's a moving object crossing the path.
It's a way to introduce it. What I'm not saying is keep your eyes fixed in one spot always. That would be ridiculous, right? So that's a good clarification. But tracking, now here's another interesting thing. I think very few people understand how powerful your brain is at tracking the blur, reconciling that blur into your racket.
Okay, but let me ask you a question, because for me, my definition of tracking would be holding my finger and then following it with my eyes. That's tracking to me.
That's focusing.
Okay.
Yes, you're focusing on a moving object.
Okay.
And there is a little bit of confusion. I think there is a little bit of word salad that comes in here, but you can call it whatever you want as long as you're reconciling the blur. I mean, you can call it a Caesar salad. I don't care, but
Well, except that if you're
yeah.
trying to teach me and
Right.
my definition is different from your definition, then there's some confusion there. So that's why I was trying to clarify. So for me, if you go to the eye doctor, they're asking you to track with your eyes. The eye doctor stands in front of you and moves his finger or her finger and asks you to use your eyes to track the movement. But you're saying that's focus.
Okay, maybe I need to dig and find a different word. No, it's a good point. I mean, because your comments are fantastic, because ultimately we want to clear up any confusion that might arise. So bottom line is about allowing your brain to reconcile the blur as it crosses your vision.
Okay.